On a foggy morning in the Bering Sea, viewers tuned in expecting the familiar deck scenes, the roar of engines, and the weathered faces of fishermen battling the harshest waters on Earth. But season after season, one vessel stood out, the Cornelia Marie, named with classic elegance after its owner's daughter and helmed by the legendary Captain Phil Harris. For years it delivered tense crab runs and unforgettable drama, carving a permanent place in the Deadliest Catch roster. And then, without warning, it vanished, slipping entirely off the show's lineup, leaving fans puzzled and hungry for answers. What happened to the Cornelia Marie? What forced the disappearance of a ship whose legacy felt inseparable from the series itself? Tonight, we dive into the real reason behind the Cornelia Marie's sudden exit from Deadliest Catch. Long before the cameras rolled, the Cornelia Marie was just another crab boat built for performance and endurance. Launched in 1997 and commissioned out of Dutch Harbor, Alaska, she measured 92 feet in length and bristled with state-of-the-art pot pullers and hydraulic cranes. Yet it wasn't her hardware that made her iconic. It was the personality she carried on her deck. Captain Phil Harris, a fourth-generation fisherman with a gravelly voice and an undaunted spirit, took command in 1999. Under his guidance, the vessel became more than a machine. It became a character in the epic struggle between man, sea, and survival. When Discovery Channel signed on to film Crabbers in 2004, the Cornelia Marie and her crew instantly became stars. Viewers bonded with Phil's one-liners, his love-hate relationship with the pot puller he dubbed Sharky, and the way his weather-worn hands moved with practiced precision. We cheered when the season brought record hauls and groaned when storms crushed their hopes. We felt heartbreak in 2010 when Phil suffered a stroke at sea, collapsing on deck as his crew fought to keep the boat upright. That quiet moment of vulnerability showed a captain at the mercy of the same waves he'd battled for decades. And it reminded us that the Cornelia Marie's true power lay in human grit as much as in steel. After Phil's passing in 2010, his daughter Ollie and son Josh wrestled with the legacy he left behind. Ollie took the reins as captain, bringing a fresh energy and a fierce protectiveness over the boat that carried her family's name. Josh handled the engineering repairs, welding patches in the machine shop, and keeping the engines humming. For seasons, they honored their father's memory and sustained the Cornelia Marie's place on Deadliest Catch through sheer determination. The audience watched as Ollie mastered lines on deck, her hair whipping in the wind, and as Josh frantically rewired electrical panels when engines groaned under the strain of icy drags. But beneath the high-stakes drama and the triumphant returns, a more subtle story was unfolding. One of aging equipment, mounting maintenance bills, and a boat that had run more seasons than most vessels dared attempt. By the mid-2010s, the Cornelia Marie was overdue for a major overhaul. Hull repairs, repowering engines, and modernizing safety systems to meet evolving Coast Guard regulations. Each hull revealed new cracks in the framework. Each storm exposed rust mongering beneath paint. And yet, the crew kept pushing forward, balancing passion for the legacy with the looming reality that every ship has a lifespan. In the seasons that followed, cracks began to appear, not just in the steel of the Cornelia Marie's hull, but in the very foundation of its place on Deadliest Catch. By 2014, the vessel had endured more than a decade of brutal crab runs, each drag pushing her beyond the limits she'd been built to withstand. Maintenance logs showed corrosion creeping into bulkheads, hydraulic leaks in the winches that powered the pot pulls, and waning engine performance under full throttle. Josh Harris was now spending weeks at a time in shipyards, patching welds, replacing piping, and negotiating estimates that steadily eclipsed six figures. Each repair kept the boat functional, but also chipped away at the family's resources. And behind the scenes, camera directors were noticing delays. The tight filming schedule, rig crews wedged into narrow decks, drone pilots hovering overhead, ran in conflict with essential dry dock periods, turning routine upkeep into headline grievances. As Discovery's production costs climbed and insurance premiums rose, a crossroads emerged. Executives approached Ollie and Josh with proposals. Partner more deeply with the show's brand to secure funding for an extensive refit, or step aside and allow newer vessels to fill the screen. The siblings bristled at the notion of relinquishing control or reconfiguring their boat to fit a television image. They insisted the Cornelia Marie's integrity, her classic lines, her storied history, remain unchanged. But budgets don't bend to sentiment, and Discovery's offers came with strings: long-term exclusivity, product placement deals, and drastically reduced fishing windows under contract. The family faced two futures: keep fishing full-time off-camera, or adapt to the network's demands and risk transforming their legacy into a scripted reality. Seasons 11 and 12 saw the Cornelia Marie shuffle in and out of episodes. Viewers noticed diminished screen time, and fans rallied behind online hashtags like #SaveTheMarie. Production insiders recall tense calls where Discovery threatened to replace the vessel with a newer boat if compromises weren't made. One rigging technician described ordering custom mounts for high-def cameras that conflicted with the deck's original design, forcing Josh to choose between safety protocols and series obligations. He refused the modification, citing liability concerns, and in turn the Cornelia Marie's online highlights reel shrank to a handful of drag hauls per season. By 2018, the decision loomed inescapable: a full hull overhaul, engine repowering, and safety system upgrades to meet new Coast Guard regulations topped $700,000, more than many newer boats cost outright. Yet the Harris family's attachment ran deep. Memories of Phil's triumphant battles against gale force winds and record hauls underpinned every nail and weld. Still, when Discovery offered to cover half the refit in exchange for filming exclusivity and profit share on crab sales, Josh and Ollie found the terms untenable. They estimated that under those conditions, real fishing income would drop by over 40%. With crew paychecks shrinking and overhead unchanged, the numbers simply didn't add up. Ultimately, the Cornelia Marie was put up for sale at a fraction of her replacement value. Bids trickled in from local fishermen and even scrap dealers, but the winning offer came from a Brazilian seafood conglomerate seeking to expand its trap fleet in the South Atlantic. The sale closed in August 2018 for $250,000, less than a fifth of the refit estimate. On camera, Season 15 rolled out without any scenes aboard the Cornelia Marie. A final montage hit screens during the reunion special, Phil's gravelly laughter echoing through the wheelhouse, Ollie's triumphant shouts after a successful haul, Josh waving from the engine room. It marked the end of an era. Fans reacted with a mixture of nostalgia and outrage. Social media campaigns begged for her return, and former crew members launched podcasts deconstructing every season's behind-the-scenes drama. Meanwhile, newer boats like the Saga and Wizard filled the void, but they lacked the familial gravitas the Cornelia Marie carried. Critics lamented that Deadliest Catch was trading its authentic maritime grit for manufactured conflict. Without Phil's wry banter or Ollie's determined leadership, many claimed the show lost its emotional anchor. This disappearance laid bare a tension endemic to reality television: the collision of genuine danger with the artificial demands of entertainment. When a vessel must juggle fishing quotas, filming schedules, and brand agreements, the true urgency of survival surrenders to the clock of production. The Cornelia Marie's final season epitomized this conflict, a battle not with Bering Sea waves, but with balance sheets and broadcast bids. Today, the Cornelia Marie sails under a new flag in warmer waters, occasionally spotted on maritime trackers off Brazil's coast. Her deck still bristles with pot pullers and cranes, but her name no longer appears in Deadliest Catch's opening credits. For many, her exit stands as a cautionary tale. Even the sturdiest boat can be sidelined by corporate priorities and budgetary constraints. Yet for the Harris family, the legacy endures in memories of broken waves, roaring drags, and a father's indomitable spirit. As Ollie pilots a new vessel into Alaskan harbors, she carries those lessons forward. That honor sometimes means letting go, and that a ship's true worth lives in the stories passed down long after her engines fall silent. While the Cornelia Marie's physical absence represents one layer of loss for Deadliest Catch's devoted audience, an undercurrent of nostalgia and frustration swelled through the fan community. Online forums lit up with threads dissecting the boat's final scenes, and petitions demanding her return garnered tens of thousands of signatures. Fans shared vintage clips, uploaded photo montages set to folk music, and even organized local screenings of old episodes so they could relive Phil Harris's gravelly quips and Ali's fearless takeouts. This digital memorial, fueled by collective longing, underscored how deeply the Cornelia Marie had embedded itself in viewers' hearts. Many argued that no vessel could replace her legacy, claiming that her absence left a void in the show's emotional landscape. These fans maintained it wasn't just a tugboat storyline they missed, but the heartbeat of a family saga that transcended reality TV tropes. Behind the scenes, former crew members felt the echo of departure differently. Deckhands who had once danced between ice and water spoke of grief at slipping onto a newer boat, missing the familiar thrum of the Marie's engines underfoot. One ex-deckhand described an empty berth in the galley where Phil's favorite thermos used to sit, and recalled how Ollie used to banter over morning coffee before the rig lines went live. That sense of camaraderie and inherited tradition couldn't be replicated on a glossy newcomer. Crew podcasts and interviews revealed that many had quietly hoped for a mid-season refit announcement, only to find themselves reassigned or leaving the series entirely. Their stories painted a portrait of how deeply crew loyalty intertwined with the vessel itself, not just its captain. In contrast, Discovery Channel executives insisted the show remained as strong as ever, highlighting impressive ratings tied to fresh personalities and dramatic new fishing grounds. Producers pointed to spin-offs like Beyond the Catch and Rookie Seas as proof that the brand could evolve. However, insiders admit that these spin-offs often followed a formula. Introduce a young hotshot, stage conflicts over quotas, then film brawls on deck, eschewing the genuine familial bonds that made the Cornelia Marie stand out. This shift in storytelling priorities mirrored the network's broader strategy: prioritize spectacle and predictable arcs over nuanced legacies. As budgets tightened and new episodes churned out at a faster clip, the show risked commodifying danger rather than honoring the real human stories behind each drag of the pots. The Cornelia Marie's disappearance illuminated a tension at the heart of maritime reality television: how to balance authentic hardship with audience expectations for drama. Filming on the Bering Sea is an inherently dangerous endeavor. Storms can blow in without warning, frostbite threatens exposed extremities, and mechanical failures can prove catastrophic. Maintaining safety protocols while capturing real-time peril requires careful scheduling, which doesn't always align with the desire for cliffhanger endings. When a network demands scenes of high tension, crews may feel pressured to prioritize drama over downtime, risking both safety and authenticity. The Marie's case exemplified this dilemma. The need for essential layovers in shipyards clashed with production demands, and in the trade-off between genuine risk and produced tension, the boat's fate was sealed. For the Harris family, letting go marked the end of a chapter steeped in more than 2 decades of history. The emotional weight of selling the Cornelia Marie ran parallel to watching her slip off television screens. Ollie Harris later admitted in a podcast that diving into the Mariana Trench of grief was harder than any crab season she'd endured. She spoke of waking up on open water, glancing toward an empty horizon where her father's silhouette would once appear, and realizing that no amount of salvage work could resurrect those mornings. Yet within that grief lay the impetus for new ventures. Lessons about adaptability, about honoring a legacy by fostering fresh opportunities, and about teaching future generations that sometimes survival means knowing when to let a ship sail its final voyage. For the Harris family, the decision to sell the Cornelia Marie was not just a business choice, but an emotional farewell. Ollie and Josh wrestled with the weight of their father's legacy as they watched the vessel change hands. On the day the title transferred, Ollie lingered on the dock, tracing her fingertips along the familiar rail, recalling Phil's gruff encouragement and the way his voice carried over the wind. Josh stood apart beside the engine room door, eyes fixed on the hull's familiar curves even as a stranger's crew prepared to raise sails. They had been custodians of the boat's history, but now they confronted a void in the water that no camera could fill. In the months that followed, Ollie and Josh channeled their grief into fresh ventures. They launched the Heritage Harbor Project, salvaging aging boats for educational programs and youth apprenticeships along the Aleutian chain. By restoring retired vessels and inviting local teens to learn welding, navigation, and maritime safety, they honored Phil's hands-on spirit. The project's inaugural restoration received coverage in Nautical Quarterly, praising its blend of community engagement and technical training. Even former Deadliest Catch producers sent letters of support, acknowledging that the Discovery footprint had left a gap in authentic mentorship at sea. Through each refurbished deck and welcoming handshake, the Harris siblings transformed loss into a legacy of empowerment. Across the wider Deadliest Catch community, the Cornelia Marie's departure sparked conversations about sustainability in maritime filming. Academic panels at universities debated how reality shows could support environmental stewardship and local economies without commodifying culture. In 2021, the Coastal Heritage Symposium invited Ollie as a keynote speaker to discuss balancing commercial viability with historical preservation. She recounted the years spent patching hull plates and battling frozen lines, stressing that each rivet told a story of risk and reward. Her address inspired producers to pilot a new series titled Legacy at Sea, pairing veteran fishermen with documentary students to record untold traditions. While the show never aired nationally, its pilot episodes remain available through the project's website, serving as a testament to authentic storytelling beyond peak TV demands. Meanwhile, Discovery Channel adjusted its approach in Alaska. Recognizing the outcry over the Cornelia Marie, executives greenlit special segments revisiting former captains, including Jeff Hansen and Mike Thompson, who shared behind-the-scenes anecdotes about filming logistics and safety protocols. These retrospectives aim to recapture the series' early ethos of raw camaraderie and collective resilience. Onboard special charters, viewers witnessed simulations of emergency drills and heard candid discussions about risk management, components missing when the focus tilted too far toward engineered drama. Although ratings during these retrospectives climbed modestly, critics noted that no retrospective could replicate the genuine tension of open ocean entanglements, nor could it replace a fourth-generation legacy vessel with decades of personal lore. As the series moves forward, the Cornelia Marie's legacy still ripples in every creak of the deck and dramatic swell of ocean captured on film. Fans honor her mythology through fan art and annual meetups near Dutch Harbor, where former crew share stories. Meanwhile, the Harris family remains active in Alaska's fishing community. Ollie mentors rookie captains, and Josh consults on refits for aging boats, ensuring maritime safety and preserving the heritage that once defined their family's name. Their ongoing work reminds us that a ship's disappearance from television does not erase its memory or impact. The Cornelia Marie may have left our screens, but her story endures in the hearts of those who lived it. Ollie and Josh reflect on their father's voice echoing across the deck with pride. In that spirit, we find the real reason she disappeared, to anchor a new chapter in a legacy that refuses to drift away. Even after the last shot of Cornelia Marie faded from television screens, her presence continued to echo across the Deadliest Catch community. Fans organized annual gatherings near Dutch Harbor, projecting vintage footage onto inflatable screens while swapping stories about Phil's trademark quips and Ali's daring maneuvers. Local theaters hosted marathon screenings in honor of her legacy, and social media groups sprang up to collect oral histories from former deckhands, engineers, and production crew. Through these events, observers discovered that the boat's disappearance had less to do with dwindling ratings than with a crucible of practical pressures that collided behind the scenes. When Josh and Ollie Harris accepted the sale offer from the Brazilian seafood company, they knew that the Cornelia Marie's final voyage would not simply be a function of outdated equipment. It was also a casualty of evolving regulations, mounting insurance liabilities, and the unrelenting pace of reality television. As the months of negotiation stretched on, an unintended contest formed between the deadlines required by Discovery's filming calendar and the mandatory dry dock inspections. Neither side could bend enough to accommodate the other. On one side stood the network's need for uninterrupted narrative momentum. On the other stood Coast Guard mandates demanding extensive hull surveys, safety upgrades, and environmental compliance. With each production day lost, networks lost footage. With each inspection missed, the family risked fines and jeopardized their operating license. The result was an impasse that no amount of sentiment could overcome. Out of this crossroads emerged the Heritage Harbor Project, Ollie and Josh's answer to the Cornelia Marie's departure. They salvaged aging crab boats, tugs, and lifeboats for hands-on educational programs along the Aleutian chain, teaching young Alaskans how to weld steel, maintain hydraulic winches, and safely navigate stormy seas. By reinvesting in youth apprenticeships, they honored their father's ethos of shared responsibility and resilience. The project's flagship program took place aboard the restored vessel Mary E., renamed in tribute to their mother. Here, scholarship recipients learned everything from reading marine charts to repairing deck machinery, forging a new generation of maritime guardians. Coverage in Nautical Quarterly praised the initiative for bridging gaps between television fame and real-world mentorship. Discovery Channel, recognizing the outcry among viewers, later commissioned a special retrospective called Anchored Stories, in which former captains and crew members relayed untold behind-the-scenes anecdotes about the challenges of coupling authentic fishing expeditions with tight filming demands. While the series received critical acclaim for its candor, it also underscored a painful truth. Authentic hardship cannot be manufactured on a predictable schedule. Rating spikes during explosive episodes gave way to lulls when storms prevented any filming at all, and producers realized that reality shows based on real danger must build in both flexibility and respect for operational realities. Today, marine enthusiasts can still track the old Cornelia Marie's hull number on global ship registries. Renamed Mare Vermelha, she now plies Brazil's South Atlantic waters, hauling shrimp and groundfish under blazing equatorial sun instead of icy Bering gales. AIS transponders broadcast her position daily, reminding those who follow that a once-beloved character in a maritime saga now sails under a new name and purpose. For some fans, spotting her on the tracker triggers a bittersweet smile. For others, it inspires a renewed appreciation for the precarious intersection of tradition and commerce. The real reason the Cornelia Marie disappeared from Deadliest Catch can be distilled into a single equation. When the cost of keeping her camera ready exceeded the value of her screen time, the network and the Harris family chose survival over spectacle. Equipment failures, regulatory deadlines, insurance costs, and narrative demands formed a volatile mix that no classic vessel could weather indefinitely. Still, their legacy sails on beyond TV screens. Yet although the Cornelia Marie is no longer visible on Deadliest Catch, her spirit persists in every spray of icy water that crashes against a captain's boots and in the crackle of lines under frigid wind. The lessons learned from her departure resonate beyond dramatic television and into real conversations about authenticity, sustainability, and the meaning of legacy. For the Harris family, releasing the Cornelia Marie meant embracing new horizons. Ollie's mentorship programs continue to shape the next generation of captains, while Josh's consulting work helps preserve historic vessels that might otherwise vanish. Their efforts underscore that sometimes the most powerful stories emerge not from headlines, but from acts of stewardship. Television producers also took note. When negotiations over the Cornelia Marie ended without a refit, Discovery Channel quietly reevaluated its approach to maritime programming. New series began embedding operational pauses into episode schedules, allowing boats to cycle through mandatory inspections and upgrades without sacrificing narrative cohesion. Camera crews gained the flexibility to film safety drills, crew training, and origin stories, shifts that paralleled the authentic ethos the Cornelia Marie embodied. This recalibration reinforced a simple truth: real hardship cannot be distilled into a rigid filming calendar. Fans, too, have taken ownership of the vessel's legacy. Online archives host fan-curated logs tracking the old Cornelia Marie's journey, while grassroots organizations collect oral histories from deckhands and dockworkers. Every shared anecdote, photo, and interview snippet contributes to a living mosaic of maritime culture. Local schools in Dutch Harbor incorporate her story into social studies projects, teaching students about the complexities of fishing economies and the interconnected web of industry, regulation, and tradition. For viewers, the disappearance of a beloved boat revealed how much audiences crave reality over manufactured drama. While high-octane cliffhangers and engineered conflicts may spike ratings temporarily, it is authenticity, camaraderie, and respect for tradition that build enduring connections. The Cornelia Marie proved that a vessel becomes iconic when it carries not only a crew, but also a shared history of grit, humor, and humanity. And when that vessel vanishes from our screens, we realize how much we depend on genuine narratives to anchor our understanding of peril and perseverance. As word spreads that the old hull sails toward the equator under a new flag, seasoned captains exchange knowing nods. They remember nights when Phil Harris's cackling laughter echoed over the deck, and they salute those moments as guiding stars amid stormy seas. Each winter in the Bering Sea, when the wind whips and the rigs pound the waves, they take a moment to raise a glass, or a coffee mug, in salute. The Cornelia Marie may have vanished from opening credits, but she lives on in every captain who inherited her lessons and courage, and in every crew member who shares her story around a warming pot of stew. Ultimately, the real reason the Cornelia Marie disappeared from Deadliest Catch distills to a balanced sheet and human values. When preserving a boat's integrity and its family's legacy outweighed the demands of weekly drama, the choice became clear. Instead of bending to narrative deadlines, the Harris family honored their father's ethos by steering away from spectacle toward stewardship. And in doing so, they chartered a new course for maritime storytelling, one guided by respect for tradition, safety, and the understanding that a ship's true worth lies not in her screen time, but in the lives she shaped and the stories she inspired.